plight of pupils there.
We'll touch base with some business updates, and here the latest Imani report reveals government performed reasonably well in its first year, however, failed to meet revenue targets. Stay with us for more on this report.
And on the international front, UK charity for children suspends operation after an attack in the Afghan town of Jalalabad. Tonight, we'll begin with Insight. Now, the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayokop-Botwe, sparked a heated debate in Parliament when she appeared to brief the House on the status of the two ex-Guantanamo detainees admitted into the country under the Mahama administration. The minister reveals the duo is now the responsibility of the country following the expiration of a 2-year agreement with the United States government.
The Anyaso-Wutom MP further made some startling revelations in the agreement, which had to be sent to Parliament for ratification.
Granted an in-depth examination of the issues by the appropriate agencies.
Minority spokesperson on Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, described the assertion by the minister of lack of exit arrangement in the agreement as strange. He, however, assured of willingness to assist government in arriving at a decision.
We need to know if it is the case that the Foreign Ministry did not have records of this refugee status. And right or not, Speaker, we also know that refugee status is also for a period. Refugee status is not permanent, it's not forever. That information has not been provided to this House. This House deserves to know how long the refugee status is. Has it expired? How many months more do we have? I believe that this is information that is vital.
MP for Kaikwe Central, Patrick Yaobuama, admonished the minority to refrain from playing politics with the matter since government is trying to clear the mess created by the past administration.
All right, so let's still stay in Parliament some more as the debate continued on the GHOne 2. Now, the MP for Boko Central, Mahama Ayarega, said the description of the duo as terrorists must be avoided since they were never convicted. Well, he added, government's decision not to send the GHOne 2 away means their position on the matter is no different from the NDC's in government.
It has become clear that the position of the new Patriotic Party and the position of the National Democratic Congress on the issue of the two gentlemen are the same.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, however, flatly rejected the assertion of the Boko Central MP. Former Deputy Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayini also refuted the claim of the minister there was no exit arrangement in the agreement admitting the two into the country. According to the Bolgatanga East MP, once the agreement is expired, the detainees should have been returned.
In the circumstances, it is not proper for the minister to try to shift responsibility by saying that this was signed by the previous government. Of course, as an administrative matter, it is true that it was signed by the previous administration. But if there's any substantive obligation arising out of and in connection with this agreement, it is a matter that must be handled properly by this current government.
Defense Minister Dominic Nituwo, for his part, cautioned his colleagues to be measured in their utterance regarding the matter, given the security implication. He wondered why the minority wants the two to be sent.
By the action of the NDC government, they are refugees. You took that decision. You knew that you had made the people refugees. You are committed to the people of Ghana, holding them as refugees, knowing that it is extremely difficult to repatriate people into Yemen who are on daily basis fighting one another with no functioning government. And then you come out and say, send them away. Send them to where? Send them to where?
National Security Minister Albert Kandapa said the two cannot be sent back unless they agree to go, given the refugee status granted them.
There are implications that go with being given that status. One of which is the decision to let him go or not does not just rest on government, but on him. The people must agree to go. It changes the whole equation. And these are the two problems that we are facing, which I believe this House should help us to resolve.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu said the argument that government hands are tied is untenable. He argued government must revoke the refugee status of the two and send them back.
As if the approval and disapproval, deportation and admission of government to, how does it improve the quality of the Ghanaian? That yes, that today the Parliament of Ghana, you want to take credit. The MPP say they want to take credit. Take, it's your credit. Take them and send them away. Every credit you want, you have it. You are taking credit that they are refugees. If you don't want to recognize them as refugees, the law is in your hands.
Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu accused the former Foreign Affairs Minister Hannah Tete of hiding crucial information about the ex-detainees from her successor. He, however, demanded a continuous monitoring of the men even as they stay in the country.
In July, we are told, July 21st, 2016, that they were accorded refugee status. The Speaker, and that is why it is surprising to hear from the Honorable Okujeto, who says that the Minister is springing this on us as a surprise. Yes, indeed, it's a surprise to this nation, because on the day of handing over, this was not part of the handing over to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the question to ask is, why was this kept as a secret from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs?
Speaking to the media after proceedings, the Foreign Affairs Minister accused the Mahama administration of entering into a bad agreement. Shirley Ayoko-Botwe said other options are still being considered.
We are left with our obligations, and that is to try and integrate them into Ghanaian society, which is what the government then did by granting them refugee status. We're still exploring the options. For on our side, I'm still going ahead to explore options.
Now let's have a conversation briefly on the back of this. Joining me via Skype is senior lecturer at the School of Law at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwadwo Appiagyei. You're welcome to the program, Doc.
Thank you for having me.
Really. Now, considering that 2 years ago, the opposition now signed this agreement with the U.S. government to allow the ex-Guantanamo Bay detainees into the country, and 2 years down the line, the arguments seem to have flipped on their side and are asking the current government to send them away. I must confess that it does confuse me as a consumer of what is happening in my government. But really, from where you sit, what do you see at play here?
Well, I think it's about the application of the law. And here we see the law, two laws at play, international law and domestic law. And the international law is supposed to be applied domestically to be able to resolve this issue. At first, it was a question of whether the government applied the proper procedures in trying to bring the detainees in here. And the Supreme Court held that it wasn't done the proper way because they should have gone through parliamentary ratification. And that was done. But then the other issue which has come up, which also connects with international law, is the refugee issue that debated in Parliament today.
Is there a case of conflict of law, perhaps, so that to what point does that international law you talk about have a hold on the country, and at what point do we have regard for whatever happens when it comes to our laws?
Well, the conflict seems to be in existence, but truly there shouldn't be. When a country signs and becomes a party, that is, ratifies an international law or treaty, it means that the country will have to adopt the necessary measures at the domestic level, administratively, legislatively, or other means to ensure that the international law can be applied within the domestic setting. That is why in the case of the Itmo 2 case, which went before the Supreme Court, it held that the government should have brought the agreement signed between Ghana and the US before Parliament to get parliamentary approval or ratification before that law can apply and work within the domestic setting. So there is not really a competition. When it comes to refugee law as well, Ghana is a state party to the UN Refugee Convention. Okay. It's also a state party to the OAU Refugee Convention. These laws have been incorporated into the local laws. So it takes precedence over the local laws, or it has become part of local laws and should be interpreted and applied as such.
So as the minority MPs would argue that the fact that something was signed before and the Foreign Affairs Minister says government's hands are tied, there's really not much it can do at the moment, it's untenable really, it's not a justified statement.
In a sense, it is justified because when the person attains a refugee status, his whole status in the country changes. At first, it was for a 2-year period, subject to negotiation or whatever. But before the 2 years would expire, they have been granted refugee status. And as a refugee, he has every right to remain in the country and enjoy some rights and privileges. He cannot, or they cannot be taken out of the country in this case because of the situation in that country. I understand they come to Yemen. Yemen is now in a state of terror. So there's a principle in international law on refugee, what they call the principle of non-refoulement.
In other words, Doc, there really are no options, as Foreign Affairs Minister would want us to believe, in the sense that she tells us we're exploring our options, we'll find a permanent solution to this. Really, she can't do that, can she?
There is some leeway somewhere, because if you look at the same UN Refugee Convention, of which Ghana is a state party, and which is part of our local laws now, it depends on how we see the position of these two people. Were they actually involved in some criminal or some act which violated a UN principle? Because the UN Refugee Act says that if there are reasonable grounds to believe that a person has committed serious, or we have serious reasons to suspect they have committed crime against peace, a war crime, crime against humanity, or a serious non-political crime, then that person, the refugee status, should be revoked.
Very well.
Or he shouldn't be allowed to be the refugee status in the first place.
Very well, Doc, just hold the line for me.
It doesn't show that the person is convicted of these crimes, but if there's reasonable grounds to believe.
Doc, just hold the line for me. Let's speak to Albert Young. He's joining our conversation now. He's with the National Network Coordinator. He is the National Network Coordinator for the West African Network for Peace Building. Thank you very much for your time, Albert. From all that I've heard so far this evening, it would appear that we're making quite a fuss about nothing. What do you think?
Could you say what you said again?
I'm saying that from what I hear from Dr. PJ this evening, given the background of the heated debates that took place in Parliament and the 2 years of hearing nothing from the ex-GHOne detainees, it would appear that you're making a fuss about nothing in our Parliament.
Really, I don't think so, because if you look at the background of the people that we're talking about, they were terror suspects and kept for some time and eventually handed over to us as a country. And they have been with us for these years. I think that, like Doc was saying, we have to look at what they are doing in the country at the moment. First of all, there are a number of things that have made them to stay in terms of agreement, in terms of laws passed, and I heard in Parliament what happened. But we need to look at what really are their conduct, because international framework, have given them a certain status based on what we ourselves as a country have agreed to, and in terms of human rights and all of that. And we need to look at their status, their conduct, their behavior. What really are they doing that will make us as a country to say that we have to treat them one way or the other? And that is it. Because if you look at what they are, they are married, so
absolutely.
we need to look at the behavior of their, investigate the backgrounds of their couples. We need to look at their behavior, monitor them, and monitor they themselves who have already been here. We need to look at their sources and expenditure. We need to continue to monitor their communication both within and out of this country. And what do we do as a country in the event that their contracts are not in law? Hello?
Albert, will the argument that for the last 2 years they have been here, we've heard nothing of them, they have gone ahead to start families in Ghana, would it suffice to a good status in the country in that they haven't been at a crossroads with the law?
They haven't been, and that doesn't mean that they cannot be just like any other person who is within the country. And so it behoves on us, and especially, as I said, their background in terms of they were suspected, not that probably they were even tried.
Very well.
And then, so we need to continue to monitor them. The fact that for the past they have not committed anything against our law or offended our law, we will continue to monitor them, investigate their expenses, and I hope that as a country we are not taking care of their costs. So it is very important for us to look at their funding sources.
Why should we do that? Yes. Why should we investigate their costs? Quickly, so we wrap up this conversation.
Yes, on what basis were they suspect? That is one of the key questions we need to ask. And what businesses do they have in this country keep them going as people? You know, how do they fend for themselves and their families? So that is why we need to monitor them. First of all, they are refugees. They now have a refugee status, you know. And so, like do in all situations, whether they are from any Yemen, from America, from wherever, we need to continue to monitor them, observe their behavior, and track their actions so that it doesn't surprises us later on.
Albert, thank you very much for your time. Doc, let me wrap up with you quickly on this. What does the future look like for us as far as, you know, our bid to our bid to take a decision on these two is concerned?
Well, as it is now, if they continue to behave well, don't violate any laws of the country, the situation in their own country remains as it is, fragile and in turmoil, then they have every right to stay here. But like I said, we can look at the possibility of whether we have reasonable grounds to believe that they have committed any offenses. That alone would be grounds for us to say that they are not entitled to refugee status under Article 1F of the UN Convention on Refugees.
Very well, Doc. Thank you very much. Dr. Kwejo Apieje Echia is Senior Law Lecturer at the University of Ghana. Kweku.
I've always been interested in finding out. So they have families now, at least they have children. If for some reason
we don't know
they were given refugee status, and let's say so that they have children. I'm wondering the status of the children. Could they be considered as citizens by birth, or really because their parents were refugees? I mean, they are not granted such privileges, and in case of anything that we have to take them back, they might equally have to go with their parents. I mean, this keeps coming up, but later on I'm sure we'll find out more. But we give you the opportunity to give us your thoughts on this particular discussion via social media. We set out the polls. We asked, according to government, it cannot return the former Guantanamo Bay detainees because they were granted refugee status under the Mahama administration. What do you think? Now, we had 32% say return them immediately, 29 saying let them stay, and we had 39 saying renegotiate the deal. So you see, quite close numbers.
I think people are lenient. Besides, they've been in the country
and we've not heard anything.
We've not heard anything. So however, the right things would have to be done.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's get clear on the laws there. Well, that will close it for Insight.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's do other stories at this point. And here, Member of Parliament for Domkwa-Benya constituency, Sarah Ajuasafo, has said that there are plans to build over 500 houses for personnel of the Ghana Police Service in Kwabenya. While the legislator who was touring her constituency also took the opportunity to visit the home of the slain police officer in Kwabenya.
The MP made the statement when she visited the Kwabenya District Police Headquarters to get a first-hand information about the recent jailbreak which claimed the life of an inspector. She also visited the family of the deceased to pay her condolence on her behalf and that of the government. To the Dome Kwabenya MP, the government is on top of security matters in the country. According to her, a modern facility is yet to be worked on to help the police service work more adequately.
I want to calm all nerves in the constituency. The appropriate authorities, the Interior Minister and the IGP have